as a currency substitute.
So we will show you two pictures. So they may be in around June or
fundamentals in general. So blockchain.
Alright, thank you, Anthony, and
all the problems that it intends to address, and
by the way, thank you
potential
to Henry of
benefits.
Bitshares for supporting the Satoshis for our trivia. Alright, magandang gabi sa lahat. Welcome to this episode of the BitPinas Webcast, where we interview the people who move the crypto industry locally and internationally forward. No? So our program for today is about programs and resources to help Web3 startups grow. No? So this will be a good webcast for those who have their own startups or planning to have their own one, especially if it is a Web3 startup. Alright? So bagong lahat, gusto ko lamang sabihin na this is our 38th episode, no? Our 38th or 37th episode. So medyo matagal itong webcast. As always, maraming salamat sa lahat ng nanonood ever since we restarted itong webcast noong 2023 last year, no? And then nagbuo na, and then we have now our parang 38th episode. Gusto ko lang din pasalamatan ng ating sponsor for the webcast, si BLINC or Bitshares Labs, which helps people establish their digital presence online, no? People and businesses. Para malaman ang more information about BLINC, you can check out their Facebook page at fb.com/Bitshares Labs. Alright? So, sa mga for those who have actually read our post, no, we hope you are able to prepare your questions for tonight's webcast about Web3 startups. As always, our winners is something that we have been doing for the last few webcast episodes, no. Of course, 300,000 Satoshi, 6 winners, 50 sats each for those who will answer the trivia questions correctly. There will be a winner also of 4 winners of 30-day Web3 journal from Tambay NFT. And then also there will be a ledger courtesy of Tezos Philippines. Para manalo dito, of course, you should be following BitPinas. You should also be sharing this page or this webcast publicly, no? So kapag hindi siya nag-share sa inyo, ibig sabihin baka hindi ka naka-publicly share, no? Para magkaroon ng badge. Alright? Ito yung Web3 journal ng Tambay NFT. So sakto, February bukas. Although of course, pag nanalo kayo ngayon, hindi siya magagawa bukas. Pero 30 days yan. 30 days na matututo kayo ng Web3 from start to the beginning. Alright, so ang topic natin for today, no, incubators and accelerators are shaking up the Web3 startup scene. So especially now that there is a bull run incoming or maybe an upcoming bull run based on past experiences, one of the things that are being people are bullish about are Web3 startups and how these startups or organizations will grow big and help support the Web3 ecosystem in the future, no? So we have a lot of incubators and accelerators locally when it comes to tech, when it comes to tech or mga businesses, startup businesses, but there's very few also, of course, for Web3 startups. There are, of course, many internationally, and some of them are already here. There are events for quite some time, but of course, there's also the challenge of some limited number of entrepreneurs. So maybe what we can do, or some of the hope of people, is to actually train people to become entrepreneurs and therefore have their own Web3 startups. All right. One of the blockchains and one of the ecosystems that are doing this, providing incubator or Web3 support is Tezos and its Asian adoption entity TZA. So joining us today, we have Imran Hakim, from Tezos Asia Pacific or TZ APAC. So maybe we can now bring him to the stage. Hello, Imran. How are you? Good evening.
Hello. Yeah, pleasure to be here. Yeah, it's about 8 p.m. now, so it's a bit dark, but pleasure to be here regardless.
Okay, yeah, I do have some lightings. No, it's also very dark outside here. So yeah, so maybe before we go to the meat of the matter, we just want to know more about yourself and of course TZ APAC. So disclosure to our audience, we have worked with TZ APAC with our collaboration with Tezos Philippines, which is a local community here of Tezos, and then we also collaborated with them through the Tesmas. If you remember our previous webcast where we discussed the NFT minting contest. That was December with Henry, with Bitshares, one of our sponsors here, who was also a judge on Tesmas. So we have been working with them closely, in the last few years. So yeah, Imran, maybe we can start with getting to know you. Can you share us what led you to crypto and then to TZ APAC or to Tezos?
Yeah, sure, exactly. I'll first talk about a little bit of how I got into crypto, and also just my journey, well, getting to TZ APAC and Tezos, and also just like what I've done since then, right? Um, so I actually bought my first crypto in 2017. So at the time I was about 18, 19. So fresh out of high school, using whatever savings I had, just hearing about crypto, through playing video games with my friends, right? So that was when I first got exposed to it. At the time, sort of right after high school, college, you have a lot of free time. So I was sort of exploring it, doing my own research, trading, and crypto was a very different place back then, right? It isn't as robust as it is now. Um, but around that time was also when I was going into university. So I studied mechanical engineering in the UK for it. So it uh, it didn't seem to me like I could be working in crypto. I thought to myself like, okay, I have to get a real job. I have to make my mom proud of me, right? By becoming an engineer. So um, so I so I just bought coins in 2017, and then I actually focused more on just becoming an engineer at that point. But what did happen during my time in uni is I got super interested in startups in general. So in uni there were a bunch of different sort of hackathons that they did specifically so that to sort of incubate startups. There was also like sort of business plan competitions that I joined. And that was kind of the seed at what made me interested in startups. um, so once I finished uni, it was about COVID, right? And I was supposed to do my master's year in the UK, but um, because of COVID, I told myself, okay, I'll just take a gap year instead, right? So I worked as an engineer for 1 year, and very quickly I found out like this isn't for me. I did not enjoy my time in doing engineering essentially. So I knew I wanted to break into tech. So I started with sort of joining a market research startup for a bit until eventually, applying and joining Tezos as an analyst. Um, so so that's kind of how I sort of pivoted from engineering to tech in the first place. And my intention when I first joined tech, I was like, okay, I wanna be an engineer, right? I wanna learn how to code and I want to build my own projects, etc. But when I just joined Tezos, one of the things I was involved in early on was just the small grants program. So when I joined at the time, it was just kicking off. And for those that don't know, like at TZ APAC, we have a small grants program to basically help any projects that are in the early stages with a bit of funding so that you can get to the stage where you can grow later on. So I started working on that and got really hands-on with it, right? And I met a lot of different startups. So it was exactly the kind of work I wanted to do. And over time, we sort of iterated and evolved the small grants program into an incubator. Um, so from there alone, we've helped like 30 plus startups built on Tezos. So these are all people that I'm very familiar with. I spent a lot of time working with them. And I'm very friendly with them as well. Um, and the next sort of evolution from that incubator is actually where we are now, which is 45 Labs, which is we call it more like a startup studio rather than an incubator. There are like nuances in terms of the differences between the two. But yeah, so the next iteration from the incubator is 45 Labs to start, which is the startup studio essentially. So in terms of what I do at 45 Labs at this point, so I'm currently deputy head of strategy for 45 Labs. So essentially, what that means is I sort of plan out the startup studio, making sure that like okay, all the grounds that startups need in terms of support is covered. Sort of I help bring partners on board and also help with getting startups that we're interested in on board, right? The selection process, etc.
Thank you, Imran. No? So we want to get to that to the 45 Labs at some point, halfway of the show. No, so thank you for letting us know that you have started here at the crypto industry in 2017. That's about the same time that our publication BitPinas also started. So so this is our second bull run as well. So I hope everyone learned. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Sharing that anecdote from your end, letting us know when you got started. So it is interesting that you mentioned also the grant system that was happened. So for our viewers, so before we don't have webcast before it, but we do have these Twitter Spaces, and we have mentioned there also that this particular grant from TZ APAC, and I think one or two Filipino organizations actually became part of the grant. One of them is Titik Poetry with Berlin Santos. Maybe we can have a link of that on our comment section, which is also one of the guests in our previous webcast. So they're one of the recipients of the PZ APAC grant. I kind of wish we have also Berlin right now. No, I forgot about that. But yeah, so that is also a brief background on that, no, on the grants that TC APAC was that was giving before, which now actually transforms to this new grant or the new incubator system or project called the 45 Labs. All right. So we want to focus here, Imran, as you mentioned, your biggest background technically are startups. Now you have worked with startups for quite some time. I want to know your perspective on the current startups that we have right now. I guess in the region, in Southeast Asia region, how do you see how many Web3 startups are there currently? I'm sure it is growing, but on the perspective of or in the landscape of all the startups right now in the region, in Singapore, Malaysia, and the Philippines, if you have some thoughts on that one.
So I mean, definitely it's growing a lot. I think what's sort of happening is people are realizing that, especially young people, right, that are coming out of uni now. Especially if you're sort of from Malaysia or like Indonesia, the sort of labor market doesn't look as compelling. And generally now, people are more open to take sort of early risk as well. So what I see is that there's a lot more sort of younger entrepreneurs that are sort of willing to take that bet early on, right? And they're super tech savvy, born with the internet sort of group of people. So I mean, my sort of anticipation is that trend will probably continue, right? You probably see younger startup founders, and generally in APAC, you know, although the funding side is slower in APAC, I would say that there are several advantages to like building in countries, especially like Malaysia, etc., where if you raise like 100K USD and you go to say Singapore to build your project, right? Your first hires and your office space rent, etc., is going to be so expensive that you're going to burn through that money in no time, basically. But the unique thing about this region is that there are also just so much sort of cheaper areas, and you don't actually lose that much out of it as well, right? So if you build in Malaysia, I'm from Malaysia, by the way. So if you build in Malaysia, for instance, right? I mean, you could hire a team for like 3-4 times less than what you would in Singapore. I mean, even like your office space would be so significantly less. That means like if an investor gave you 100K for you to have 1 year runway, now you have 3 years runway. So that's an interesting decision that startups actually have to make in this region. And all these countries are super welcoming. Bali has the digital nomad program. Malaysia has similar initiatives to attract people to come and set the company up here essentially. So so I think the region itself is definitely growing from a startup's point of view. So my criticism would be we need more VCs here, and we need more funding to flow around sort of countries like Malaysia, Philippines. I mean, in Singapore, that's where you go for funding, basically.
All right, thank you so much for that very comprehensive review of the startup scene that we have right now here in the region. So now we're talking about Web3 startups. Now we had this particular webcast before with two VCs. I forgot who they were, but two VCs also from Singapore and Japan, and this was during one of the Web3 Game Summit here that happened last year. So I'm interested to know also your thoughts here. So what could be the advantages of being a Web3 startup looking for example, for funding or for support versus if you are a regular tech startup?
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, that's a good question, right? I think so I would say, like, one thing about being a startup is, I mean, generally you have to stand in the way of money, right? So if you see money flowing in space, it's probably a smart idea to position yourself, around the realm of like where that space is. So there's a couple things that sort of are regarded as, like, the sort of the needle point of tech, right? You could say, you know blockchain being one of them, AI being one of them. There's sort of the agriculture side as well. And this is just startups in general, right? So I think if you're in any of those spaces, as long as you are in basically a position to disrupt a market, um, I think that's essentially where you want to be. So whether it's crypto or AI, or like anything else, generally speaking, it makes sense for startups to be there, just because there's more money flowing in that direction, right? But crypto specifically, there are certain things that make it a little bit more compelling, right, from an investor's point of view. Especially from, if you sort of have a token. I mean, the sort of the incentives of the investment for the VC, it just makes more sense, right? Like, if you were giving out equity for a company, for instance, like, basically the turnaround time for that VC's exit is quite long, right? It will basically be when the startup decides to raise next time, which might be in 2 years, it might be in 3 years, whereas, like, if you are a VC and you essentially have the SAFT agreement for tokens, then it could be in 6 months the token will launch, then it will vest it in 4 months, and it'll be like a year when you get to exit, or something like that. So I mean, people need to be careful. Startups need to be careful about that, about who they have on their investors, especially if they're doing tokens. But generally speaking, if you have a compelling product in crypto, following some of the narratives that are in the market, and you have tokens, like, it becomes very easy for a VC to invest. Say, compared to, like, if somebody came to me again and they're like, oh, I want to make another ride hailing app, right? Like, that's obviously significantly harder than yeah. And the good thing about crypto as well is that there's just so much money flowing that the investment is not the only way that you can get money, right? You can also get grants. If you're smart about it, you can, if you've already built out a community, you could sell NFTs to get your initial capital. Or maybe, if people are open to the idea of tokens, you could sell your tokens early on at a small amount to raise some capital. So you can actually be quite flexible, um, you know, in terms of raising money in crypto. And generally speaking, there's sort of a premium to digital assets, right, compared to sort of anything real and tangible. Yeah.
All right. So it is interesting that you mentioned about one of the difference between a Web3 startup raising fund or money versus, for example, a tech startup or a traditional startup is kind of this agreement. You mentioned the SAP, no, the simple agreement for future tokens, and I think this is essentially very important for our viewers right now. Can you briefly discuss what does it mean? Simple agreement for future tokens or SAP?
Right. So I mean, so there's an equivalent for equity as well, which is a safe note.
Mhm.
So a safe is a very, very standard, essentially, investment agreement. Like, so, um, you know, safe is if you want equity in the company. Soft is if you want tokens. Obviously, soft is very specific to Web3, right? Um, but yeah, it's just a way of you know, an investor easily you know, investing in a project, like where they say, okay, that means in the future I have access to your tokens when you launch it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not that complicated, but it is really useful, and it's the industry standard. Like even if you go to the Y Combinator page, for those that don't know, Y Combinator is like probably the biggest accelerator in the world and the most successful. They have like templated safe and soft nodes that anybody can use.
All right. So just to thank you for that, no, Imran. So for our viewers, no, we have already put that in the comment section. No. So what is different? Basically, before a startup will have an agreement for future equity. So meaning they will have a share of your company, no, at some point. But on this one, they will get an agreement so that they will have your tokens at one point in the future. No. So one of some of the things that are happening at the moment right now. So if you notice, we have also on BitPinas, no, there are some, what is this? We have this particular monthly public article where we put the token allocations or how many tokens will be released by a particular project. So that is one of the reasons why that is because of the SAP or the simple agreement for future tokens. All right, thank you, Imran, for that. No, we are Daisy APAC, Web3 startups. We're talking about 45 Labs. We are in the Tezos blockchain. So I think we should have started with this after your introduction. So can you quickly explain the Tezos blockchain? So why are you guys why are we building here on this particular chain?
Sure. Yeah, so for those that don't know, Tezos is a layer one blockchain, much like Ethereum. But what sort of makes it stand apart compared to Ethereum is that it has basically an on-chain governance and upgradable system, right? So, you know, if you were in crypto for a while, you would know that, like, you know, back in the past, there was, you know, Ethereum, and then there was a fork of Ethereum to Ethereum Classic, and sort of forks are very common, right? It even happened when you know, Ethereum was moving to proof of stake as well, and you know, that happens essentially because you have to fork the code rather than upgrade it, right? In sort of a modular fashion. Like Tezos resolved that because you know, by having it sort of built in at the protocol level. So in other words, you know, Tezos is constantly evolving. So every year we have 4 upgrades, and our tech is basically keeping up with like what is the best thing out there, right? I think a good example of like why this is important is basically what is going to happen this year with Tezos, right? So, you know, Tezos is already quite a performant blockchain. It is constantly changing, but this time around, sorry, about mid of last year, I think it launched one of the basically roll up integration, allowing anyone to do optimistic roll ups on Tezos. But recently, you know, in this year, they're going to launch a new layer 2 chain on Tezos called EtherLink. And there's a couple aspects on a technical level that make this like super interesting, right? So if you think about optimistic rollups, like, you know, Arbitrum or Optimism, all of them face a couple issues related to decentralization, right? You know, most of their sequences are centralized, which basically means you know, there's a single point of failure there. You know, most of them, the rollups are essentially smart contracts, so it's not really integrated at the protocol level. So, you know, basically, if you're on Arbitrum, your funds are safeguarded by, you know, a 3/5 multi-sig key, right? So technically they probably won't, but technically they can rug you at any time. So Tezos with Etherlink, that's like completely different. So the rollups are enshrined, so which means that it's integrated at the protocol level. So security is super high. We have decentralized sequences, which is, you know, a problem that many people have been trying to solve for a long time. You know, that there's a narrative going out with Celestia now about, you know, data availability layers as well. That's something that's coming. That's you know, coming to Tezos too. So basically, you know, this is essentially a testament at how important it is for a blockchain to be able to upgrade, right? And if you really think about it, it makes sense, right? How could you have a core infrastructure that cannot evolve, that will stay the same, right? So that's essentially what makes Tezos unique from a tech perspective, right? So I really think that the Tezos tech is some of the best around there, um, and we do have a unique take, a unique position in the market as well. So I would say where Tezos has found its sort of market fit, or where users like to use Tezos the most, is actually on the art side of things. So if you look at some of the marketplaces on Tezos like Object or FX Hash, it's super big, right? And it's very different from what I see. It's very different from like what you would see, potentially on like OpenSea or some other marketplaces, right, where it's more like PFP focused. When you go on like Tezos marketplaces, you actually really see not just the community, but actually the culture of it. Like it feels like kind of underground. It feels kind of cool. You'll have these sort of personalities that are very big on Tezos. And if you actually speak to these artists, um, you get to know that their profiles are actually super awesome as well, right? Like they, especially like people who are involved in FX Hash generative art. I think that's such a cool space to be in, because I think the people involved in that community is a specific kind of breed, right? You have to have like sort of that artistic flair whilst also being technically competent to code these kind of things. So I think the Tezos community is quite interesting as well. And I think one last thing that I would like to add with regards to Tezos and why sort of is unique in the ecosystem is that like basically Tezos Foundation and the multiple entities, the grant programs all operate because Tezos raised a really successful ICO back in the day. So we are one of the entities that still have a sort of really healthy treasury behind us. So that like Tezos isn't going anywhere soon, right? There'll always be people working on it. There'll always be communities springing up and initiatives supported. So because of that, I think it becomes like a pretty good bet on where you should build your startup.
All right, thank you. Yeah, on the funding of Tesos, no, I just vividly remember. I'm not sure where are the others, no, at that point, the organizations that have raised funds during that that ICO era. No? So thank you for mentioning that. And then also you have mentioned, very familiar with the BitPinas audience, the Tesos art community, and some of them, or most of them, are actually here in our comment section. Shout out to Sip, our community manager at Tezos Philippines, Henry, and many others. Who are also here. Nick, Jeric, Ronilo. Shout out to all of you who are here at our webcast. So yeah, it is interesting that you mentioned this, no, that there's a big like art community also on Tezos. And so it appears to me like there are like a two sides. Is that correct? Like there's the developer side, and then the art side. So how do we see them, or the Tezos, particular the people who are working in Tezos, are bridging these things? So you actually briefly mentioned it earlier, no? The people who have built Object, no, very famous marketplace for Filipino artists, and then the FX Hash as well. So what do you think about it?
Well, I think so yeah, it's true. Like art is really big on Tezos, and is one of the things that like the community has naturally gravitated towards. But I think also, so I don't think that's going to diminish. I think that's going to keep growing. But I also think that there's room for other stuff as well, right? So, if you've been keeping up with the TZA Pack sort of Twitter, you'll see that like we've onboarded a bunch of games recently, and there's a huge push on games, right? So Tezos is one of the performance chains that can handle games like that. So I see that it's sort of a natural progression, right? Like after being a chain for arts, then the gaming side of things, there's still a huge amount of players on that end as well. And the various entities in Tezos are also really pushing on DeFi hard as well, especially with Etherlink.
Mm.
So, I think when you put all of these things together, the outcome is greater than the sum of its parts, right? And something new will emerge, hopefully, right? So although like most of the community is art right now, I would say that like that probably won't be the case in the coming future, right? As these different initiatives get adopted, gaming becomes more popular on Web3. DeFi on Tezos finally starts picking up again. I think all of those things will make for something super interesting. I mean, in terms of, um, I think the devs working on the core Tezos protocol, they're definitely going the right direction. I mean, I think one of the most interesting uses of the rollup technology I've seen on Tezos so far is from DNS.xyz. So they made their own rollup to handle their application, and they're essentially doing sort of a social platform. You can watch videos, etc. on it. So, I think when you can build something like that and sort of get high performance on the blockchain, I think that's super cool, right? And that's like the next step to sort of the holy grail, what everyone wants to do, which is mass adoption of crypto, right?
Yes. So just thank you for that, no, and I think you have mentioned the answer to this already, but just in case it is not clear, so just in case I have a project already on Ethereum, for example, or on any other chains, how can we move or move our code, etc., to Tezos? Is there a solution now? I think you've mentioned this earlier, because before, when we were doing a workshop last 2021, with TCA last November 2021. So that was also one of the main questions. So
I see.
about
Yeah, I mean, I think so. So right now, well, right now you can, if you want to build on Tezos, you can only build on the layer one. Etherlink is scheduled for launch in Q2, if I'm not mistaken. So, if you want to build on the layer one on Tezos, just you can basically the smart contract language, it compiles to Michelson, but there are a bunch of sort of libraries that that's written in Python or like Lego or Camel that's easier to work with. There is a slight learning curve, but I think if you are familiar with smart contract development, it wouldn't be too difficult to learn. And there's a lot of resources out there online on how to get started as well. And of course, right, if anybody's interested, they can always reach out to me. I can sort of help connect them to the right people. But so as of now, the only way to build on Tezos is on the layer one. But I think it will be a big change once Etherlink comes in, right? Because the whole point of
yes.
Etherlink and why we're so keen on it is because we want to have an EVM compatible chain on Tezos. So that should lower the barrier to entry and also the barrier in terms of integration for a lot of projects. We're specifically making it in a way that um, most of the libraries that are typically used would be compatible. So I haven't I need to check exactly what it would take to move a project over, but the ideal case scenario is that it wouldn't take that much effort, right? If you already have a fully fledged project working on Ethereum, you should be able to deploy that on Etherlink with no issues.
All right. Thank you so much for that. No? Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
At some point in the future, as Imran has mentioned, there will be a way to actually move or work your project towards Tezos. That was February, no? If am I correct? February. The target is February
um
for Etherlink,
it was either
or
February or
March.
March. I'm not sure the
Okay.
exact date.
Okay. Thank you so much, no, and shout out to our listeners, to our viewers: Calvin Pareja, Max Corleone, Mardon Saluntao, Bernalito Tapao, Melissa de Berallanes, Joven Delgado, Vincent Ayohay, Bernalito Tapao, Ismael Jerusalem. Thank you for being here on our webcast. So we are now going to our second half. But for now, we have this word from our sponsor, and then our trivia Q&A with our trivia master, Lance. So after this short break, we will have again Imran to talk about Fortify Labs and the things that is happening on this Web3 studio. So yeah, thank you Imran for a bit. So we're going to just play our video from BLINC.
Ayan guys, hello, welcome once again here on the BitPinas Webcast. All right, so are you excited to win Satoshis? Okay, we will be giving away 50,000 Satoshis to all of you. Ay, hindi, not to all of you, no? But we will select, ayan, we will select 6 winners. Ayan, that will receive 50,000 Satoshis. And 4 of them will come from our trivia question for tonight. So once again, thank you so much, Bitshares Labs, for giving us these Satoshis. Remember that you need to have a sharer badge and a follower badge in order to qualify. Now, you can have these badges if you will follow our fan page at BitPinas and share our live stream publicly. But remember that when you share our live stream, you need to share it as public, not on your friends only. Okay? So I hope that you're ready, no, to answer our questions for tonight. Now, are you ready, guys? Ayan. Are you ready? GM tayo dyan. Okay. So, our first question for tonight. What is the native token of the Tezos blockchain? What is the native token of the Tezos blockchain? Okay, so write the correct answer in our comment section. Okay. Ayan. So once again, what is the native token of the Tezos blockchain? So if you didn't have the opportunity or the chance to answer our question, don't worry, we have another one. Okay. So our next question is, okay, give one local exchange that has listed the Tezos token. No. So once again, give one local exchange that has listed the Tezos blockchain. Okay. So don't forget to like our Facebook fan page at BitPinas. Number 1. Number 2, share our live stream publicly in your Facebook profile. Make sure that it is not only limited to friends, but in public. And 3rd, type the correct answer in our Facebook live stream comment section. So once again, give one local exchange that has listed the Tezos token. Okay, so don't worry if you didn't answer our trivia questions earlier. We will ask again another 2 later on. So once again, thank you so much, Bitshares Labs, for providing these Satoshis. So we'll be giving away 50,000 Satoshis to 6 winners. 4 of them will come from our trivia question, and we will select 2 in our the most active in our comment section. To learn more about Bitshares Labs, don't forget to check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/Bitshares Labs. Okay? So once again, this is Mike Lance, and let's go back to Mike.
All right, thank you so much, Lance, no, for the trivia for tonight. So once again, thank you also to Bitshares Labs who provided the Satoshis for this event. We should also have some XDC. I mean the one of the questions now for the answer. So yeah, we can now bring Hakim Imran for this. All right, so yeah, thank you so much, Imran. We are back with Imran, the Deputy Head of Strategy. I'm sure if I'm saying that correctly, of TZ APAC. So now we are moving on to the part of the Fortify Labs. So one of the things that TZ APAC is doing. So Imran, you have mentioned briefly earlier about Fortify Labs, but maybe can you also briefly mention also how did this particular initiative come about?
Oh yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, right? When I first started in TCA Pack, I was working on the small grants program, and sort of really drive that forward. And when we first rolled that out, it was very bare bones. It was just like, hey, if you're a project that needs some really early funding, and we'll help you with that. But throughout our time there, what I personally saw was like, hey, startups need a little bit more than just funding, right? They need network, they need like access to resources, etc. And the team, they're all experts in their own right. So I thought to myself, hey, why don't we expand this small grants program to be a bit more than that and make it a sort of incubator instead. And so that was a model that we sort of set on. We did that for 2 cohorts. After sort of constantly iterating and meeting all these startups, gathering their feedback, this is essentially the next evolution of that. So one of the things that we saw in the incubator was like, so the incubator itself was only running for about 3 months, right? And that's like a very, very short time. And the stage of companies we work on is very super early stage, right? So some of them only had ideas and we wanted to launch with them. One of the things that we noticed was like, hey, like, okay, fine, some companies are able to launch within 3 months, but we wouldn't be able to properly work on like the go to market with them, right? Because by the end of the program, they've launched, and then the demo day is right after that. So it sort of naturally made sense for us to move towards a sort of startup studio or venture studio model where, hey, we will actually work with you for a longer period of time. So that's why 45 Labs is actually quite a lengthy sort of program compared to like accelerators which are like 6 months, or like incubators which are 3 months. 45 Labs is like 7.5 months, right? And sort of our philosophy when it comes to 45 Labs is that we don't just want to give you money and go. We actually want to be your accomplice. We essentially want to work and operate with you throughout the year, right? So we're not just going to help you build it, but we're actually going to help you go to market, find customers, and convert your idea or product into something that's profitable and sustainable. That's kind of the philosophy behind 45 Labs, and it's something that I tell the team all the time as well, right? It was sort of the natural next step after the incubator program, and I'm quite confident that startups that who join this program will get a lot of value out of it, right? Because you know basically you have a team that's attached to you throughout your whole 7.5 month sprint. Is essentially what it is. And I'll go into details in terms of like what is part of the program a bit later, but I hope that sort of answers your questions.
Yeah, thank you so much on that, Imran, no, and thank you for letting us know more about the vision behind how you come about with this 45 Labs. So now on our screen, we are checking here what are the things that will be provided. Um,
Sure.
sorry, on the 45 Labs. So we see here like developer hours, design hours,
Yep.
cloud credits. So community of early adopters. So legal advisors, contacts, partnership sponsors, funding support, connection to VCs, so advisory and mentorship. So connection to VCs. So this is one of the things that at BitPinas we actually also posted about this quite some time ago. And one of the things that were asked is of course what do we mean by funding support, and who are
Sure.
the VCs that will be part of this initiative, Imran.
Sure. So maybe I can sort of go through that list, but sort of in my own words, right? And sort of
Yeah.
frame it in a slightly different way as well. Okay, so you got accepted into 45 Labs. Like, what's next, right? So so first of all, in terms of on the funding side of things, there is a grant attached to joining 45 Labs. and also that will come with a certain amount of credits that we've set aside for usage of vendors, and I'll go into the vendors a little bit more. And also we have access to 25K worth of AWS credits as well. So all in all of these support modes lumped together, it's about 70K USD worth of value for each startup, right?
Okay.
So about 30%, 30% of that is in fiat, 30% of that is in sort of credits that you can use for vendors, and 30% of that is in AWS credits. So what vendors do we have, and what do we mean by credits, right? So like basically what we've done with Fortify Labs, we've spoken to a bunch of different people who we think are really good at their jobs, and we brought them all together to have a sort of ecosystem of people who can support these startups, right? So that includes developers, that includes designers, that includes legal consultation, including like stuff related to back office stuff like company incorporation, fundraising. There's also a tokenomics and token listing support side of things that isn't mentioned in there. We also have smart contract and security audits firms that can help you with your product as well. So basically, out of all those things, you can use the credits to access any of those, right? So we try and make it as flexible as possible, but it makes sense to just sort of go through it, right? So if you're a startup, let's say, and you join Fortify Labs, and maybe you as a business team and your marketing team is super on point, right? You guys got the branding down, you guys got your community, everything awesome. But then you guys are lacking on the sort of developer support and maybe on the UI UX side of things. So that's something that you can use those credits for, right? We'll provide you the developers, and we'll also provide you designers to help build out your front end in terms of looks, in terms of branding, whatever. So essentially the idea of these vendors is that they'll fill in any of the gaps that you have in your team without you actually having to spend any money. So essentially what that makes is just an ecosystem of people whose not just their actions are useful, but also their opinions are useful, right? So let's say even if you had a development team and you're building on Tezos, and let's say you face an issue, you can immediately speak to these devs and they'll sort of support you. Even if it's not like building something for you, they can just support you that way. And you can flip that around as well, right? Let's say you're a super technical team that doesn't know that maybe your marketing and sort of the business end isn't your strength. We can help you with the back office stuff. We can help you with your our sort of advisors can help you with your go-to-market strategy. We can help you with branding, doing your pitch decks, etc. So the idea here is that, like I said, we want to sort of plug in any of the gaps that you have. And that's just for the vendor side of things in terms of how you can use the credits, right? So the amount I mentioned, which is about 70K in total value of support, isn't even including like some of the other initiatives we have, right? So one I think super strong point in Fortify Labs is that we have an in-house marketing and business development team. So what this means is that there will be a marketing team that can help you go to market or do any campaigns, connect you to the right communities, or entities, all around the world, depending on what you want to do. There's also a business development team that's very on point, that that will essentially help you with business matching, connecting you to VCs. So on top of all those things I mentioned before, you also get these two super strong support modes, which is essentially having a marketing and BD team plugged into you that has access to the whole Tezos network, right? And to sort of as icing on the cake, one of the things that's mentioned there is like already community of product testers and early adopters, right? So one of the sort of core philosophies when it comes to startups is just the process of iteration, right? How quickly can you turn like a product that maybe doesn't have product market fit into something that is closer to product market fit, and that all depends on how often you speak to customers, the rate at which you disseminate that information and convert it into like actual features on a product. So that's like a very inherent thing in like startups that all startups should aim to do. So we've decided to help with that end as well, which is basically we're currently like making a community of product testers and early adopters. So if you join Fortify Labs, you have access to these communities, right? So you want to do your beta launch, for instance. Okay, here's your initial 50 customers off the bat, right? People who will use your product, people who will give in-depth feedback. We have incentive systems behind those communities as well to make sure that the feedback that you're getting is actually good, to make sure that the community actually participates to try your project as well. So I think that's really can be really valuable if it's used properly by startups as well. And I think the final point that I think is quite a good sort of selling point for Fortify Labs is that is the advisory and mentorship side of things. So how we operate is that we have one main personal mentor for the startups in Fortify Labs. So for now, we're aiming for 7 startups. So the cohort is quite small. But our main sort of personal mentor is a man named Julian, who's been at TZ APAC for a while as well. Julian has super extensive background in venture capital. He was, if I'm not mistaken, one of Temasik's first exits. He really embodies the startup philosophy, and he's been working with the same startups I've been working with over the past 2 years, right? And everyone has sort of really good things to say about him. So that's how we do the mentorship side of things. But on top of the mentorship, there's a set of sort of advisors that we have on board as well. I can't say all of them because some of them are in the midst of being signed, but I think some interesting ones is like Kata.ai. The founder is one of the advisors. So Kata.ai is a sort of AI chatbot company based in Indonesia. The founder also took part in our previous cohort back then. So we're really close to him, and I think he has a wealth of experience as well, right? We have Spiral Ventures on board, and somebody who used to be the Bybit market lead, if I'm not mistaken. So we have a couple others in the pipeline that I don't think I can share as of yet, but if you follow the TZA Pack page, there'll definitely be updates coming that way as well.
All right. Thank you so much for that, very, very comprehensive feedback or review of what the startups will get if they join the Fortify Labs initiative of TZ APAC. No? So as I already remembered one about the names of our guests last time who are VCs. They are from Long Hash Ventures and Emote from Singapore, I think. So I'm not sure if they're going to be part of that, but I sort of see this webcast that we have, Imran, as like a part 2 of what we were discussing back then about Web3 startups and VCs and all that. No? So people would an organization would be applying to Fortify Labs. So this particular slide says that you are looking for teams that are already beyond the ideation stage. So there's already an idea, and they just need to into building a product, and then the teams, as mentioned, that will be provided by Fortify Labs once they become part of the cohort present. No? So what if the applicant, they saw your link, no, and then, but it's not that they don't have an idea, but they are getting there. You get what I mean? Like,
I know
like just one one click, and then they finally have it. Does TZ APAC also offer that support, wherein they can actually call you, for example, to help them with their idea before they can apply?
So I think so. One of the key differences between what we're doing this year and last year, and to a certain extent, it's what separates the concept of an incubator versus a startup studio, right? Is basically you should be already building the product. Actually, like our idea is that we want to go to market with you, right? Like a lot of time is spent building the product, and we can certainly help on that front as well. But actually, a lot of our strength lies on the go-to-market part. So, like a key criteria for us is like, okay, fine. Like, at which stage of product are you at? Like, can you go to market in 3 months? So if you can answer that question in a convincing way, then yeah, I mean, please feel free to apply. Like, if you can go to market in 3 months, like we'll certainly help you on that front, right? In terms of like, okay, if you're an idea, you're almost there, maybe you have like a hackathon MVP sort of thing. I mean, I wouldn't say no outright, right? I mean, it depends on the level of progress you have, right? So maybe you're in a scenario where, okay, fine, you have an MVP, the product isn't too amazing yet, but you have like, 1,000 users using it or something like that, right? That's a different story, because that's something that sort of we can work with, and it makes sense to provide a tech support at that point. So, I think as long as you have traction, either from like the build point of view where you can go to market in 3 months, or from the community point of view where you have a ready audience, already people who are, who love your product, right? Essentially, even if your product like kind of sucks at the start or whatever, I think that's fine. So I would say, don't get, I know like go to market in 3 months. It can sound a bit like, a bit high pressure, but like, I think it's a reasonable sort of ask, and I'm quite confident that a lot of startups fall into that category. So yeah, I would say apply anyways, and see if you can justify going to market in 3 months.
All right, thank you so much. No, Imran, very comprehensive, and one of the things that we want to discuss next is, of course, as you mentioned, diba, maybe they don't have the idea yet, but there's a deadline for this. No, it's not going to happen today or tomorrow. When is the deadline for the application, Imran? When? Sorry. When?
Yeah, so the applications started like I think in week 1 or 2 of January. So we're gonna have it up for about 1.5 months. So essentially applications will close in about a month from now. Yeah,
All
in
right.
about a month from now.
Okay.
So end
So,
of February basically. Yeah.
okay, thank you so much, no, Imran. No, so shout out to Peter Mayer, who is here, the founder of the Tezos community. So and also the SIP, also people from the Tezos Philippines community, who are all here on our webcast. Or if they're not, they will be watching the replay. So Imran, this has a lot of replay value, our webcast. No? So thank you for that. No, so my colleague here, Lance, our trivia master, actually has a question to you. Maybe we can bring him up. Master Lance?
Okay, thank you, Mike. I have a question, Imran, regarding the application through the 45 Labs.
Sure.
I'm just curious if is this an ongoing application wherein is it a cohort based application that after this batch, then do we have, if for example our Web3 startup is not unable to apply for this this time around, is it open? Is there is there an
Yeah.
opportunity that this application
Is there another
will be open?
cohort, for example?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I get your question. So unfortunately, we're only doing one cohort this year. So I don't foresee us doing another cohort within the year. Maybe if we have the bandwidth, but for now, it will probably be an annual thing. So every year we're on board, 7-ish startups. So yeah.
All right. So thank you so much, Lance. Thank you so much, Imran. No? So one cohort only for this month, for this year. So we will never know what will happen. Maybe they will have the bandwidth at some point. No, so TZA back. So does that mean, Imran? No, so once application ended February, we're basically going to work on this and this alone for the entire duration of the
Yeah.
of the
I mean, it's going to be definitely a big focus of ours, right? Especially with some of the other things that are going on in the ecosystem, like Etherlink. I think it makes sense to sort of push everything at once and focus our efforts here. So yeah, I mean, for now, that is our primary focus. Yeah, I don't see, we're still going to do the some of the stuff that we typically do, right? And if anything, it maybe be an evolution to be included, like into the 45 labs, like for instance the community rewards program, using it for product testers and early adopters, right? I think so there's still a lot of ways for people to sort of be involved in this whole process, right?
Okay, so clarifying what Imran has mentioned, correct me if wrong, no? So once this particular cohort started, there will be a bunch of startups who will be part of the 45 labs, and then all the other members of the Tezos community can still participate to the what was that you were mentioning, the community rewards program. Is that correct? Wherein
Is
they can participate in this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, community rewards or like the product testers and early adopters that I was mentioning earlier.
Mm-mm.
So like if anyone's interested in sort of joining that community, I can definitely connect you to the person managing it.
All right. Thank you, Imran, and thank you, Lance. Hope that does answer your question. So we have this question from Kit Gerbina, one of our regular webcast viewers. Are there any penalties? Penalties already, Kit. But yeah, will there be penalties just in case they don't met their targets, deliverables, or this is a standard, no? In or what do you think of this question, Kit?
So I wouldn't say there's penalties. It's not like we're not gonna give you a red card if that's what you're asking. But with any grant program or any of these, even investments to a certain extent, there's usually milestones, right? Like you mentioned. So those are all just targets, right? And if a startup doesn't meet those milestones, um, you know, I mean, our first response is to try and work with them to figure out, okay, what can we do to help you meet those milestones, right? So even if it's a bit later, we can be flexible in terms of the day, etc. But I think generally speaking, we'll try and work with you to make sure those milestones are met. But there's no penalties per se, right? It's just if you meet certain milestones that unlocks the next sort of round of funds, basically.
All right. So next question from Israel. I think you mentioned this briefly earlier, no? So do you have any trainings or workshops? So there will be, right? So I mean, during the duration of the cohort, there will be trainings and workshop for those who have successfully applied.
Um, so 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 trainings and workshop, it isn't our core focus. We are more focused on like the actual execution side of things and going to market review. But with that being said, Julian will be conducting some workshops on his own, and also we'll have some guests sort of come in and do like either hour-long sessions or like advisory sessions or you know that kind of stuff. But so yeah, to sum it up, there will still be workshops, but not super comprehensive. Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Israel. No, hope that does answer your question. Another question. What is this? Okay. Yeah. There is I'm not sure Imran if you're familiar, but there's some situation here in the Philippines about exchanges, no. But yeah, maybe you can answer this like regulation. How does it work with Web3 and Web3
Yeah,
startup?
yeah. I,
So
I mean, I can relate to this question because Binance is banned in Malaysia as well. But there's a lot of different exchanges that you can use to get on board crypto, right? I mean, I think what coins.ph is probably big in Philippines, right? There's a couple in Philippines. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but I know that there are a couple regulated ones in Philippines that are quite good. In Malaysia, there are a couple as well, and it's enough, right? Like once you get a hold of Ethereum or Bitcoin, you can usually swap it out for other assets quite easily. So I wouldn't say it's a blocker.
okay.
Even if let's say you were paid in crypto by a startup that you decided to work on, I mean, you can still swap that out for Ethereum and sell it in your respective country, basically.
All right, thanks. No, so another question from Israel. We can create a local community. So there's already a local community Israel, no, on Tezos, Tezos, our Tezos developers at Tezos PHL, where SIP is actually also in the comment section, which SIP is actually heading, no, the community manager of Tezos Philippines. So, yeah, really thank you so much, I don't know, Imran, for this. I'm just, browsing right now the comments if there are some interesting questions on your end. But is there anything that you think you want to say to us that maybe I have not yet asked you that you would like to share with our audience right now?
Maybe just a last note on the program. I think one thing that we didn't cover is actually what does the program sort of culminate to? What does it lead to, right, at the end of the day? What happens at the 7.5 months
Mhm.
mark? You know what I mean? So there is a demo day with that. We are going to make it so that it coincides with Token 2049. And there's going to be a side event. We're going to get a sick place and make sure it's super nice, everything. And we'll also subsidize or help you pay for your cost to get here. And we expect that there's 2 times within the program. I mean, most of the program is going to be remote, but there'll be 2 times where we will actually meet you physically. One in the middle of it and one at the end. So and both will be subsidized, about $1,000 per travel, basically. So I think, if you're a startup that you think you can launch in 3 months, that or even if you think that's an optimistic goal, would love to sort of hear your idea out, hear your business plan out, and see if we can work together, right? I think on a personal level, I'm super passionate about working with startups. I love meeting founders. I think they are energy. Most of the time they add energy rather than take energy. So it's a really sort of potent thing, right, working with founders. So if you are a founder, even if you just want to have a regular conversation, I mean, super happy to chat. Just feel free to reach out to me.
All right, thank you so much, no, Imran, for this very interesting conversation about not just about about Partify Labs, but also about startups in nature. So I would just like to end this with this comment from the Resistance Trader. Kudos to all the brave startups who boldly face the challenges. So thank you so much. No, not just startups, people who have their own businesses, self-employed people who have managed their own businesses. It's hard, no? And it's really very fortunate that we have people like Imran, people in the community who can help us, through these challenges. Maybe, just as Imran mentioned, just a person to talk to when things are not going your way, no. So really, thank you for this, no, the Resistance Trader. So for those who are asking if there are resources in Tezos, people who would want to join the cohort, the link is already on the comment section. And then for those who wanted to join the Tezos community, wherein there are developer resources, and also community as a whole, there's also the Tezos Philippines, wherein you can also see that in the comment section. All right. So I almost forget that we still have one one trivia portion with our trivia master Lance. So hope you can stay for a bit, Imran, so we can have this particular trivia first from Lance, and then we can have our final words for this session. All right. So
Sure.
let's bring up Lance for the final Q&A.
Ayan, hello once again, guys. Thank you so much for listening here at BitPinas Webcast together with Imran of Tezos. Ayan. So are you excited to win 50,000 Satoshis? So what you will do is just to like our Facebook fan page at BitPinas, share our Facebook live stream publicly on your Facebook profile, and third, answer the trivia question correctly in our comment section in our Facebook live stream. So we will be selecting 4 winners in our trivia question, 1 winner per each question, and we will announce the winner after the live stream. That's why tutok lang dito sa ating Facebook fan page to learn more about the latest trends on blockchain and Web3, the Philippines and abroad. Okay, so are you ready to win 50,000 Satoshis? Okay, so our third question. What is the name of the Web3 startup studio by TZ APAC, tailored to foster startups built on Tezos and the upcoming Etherlink? Ayan. Na ano naman ako, no? na ano naman ako, lumalabo na naman. So, once again, the third question is, what is the name of the Web3 startup studio by TZ APAC, tailored to foster startups built on Tezos and the upcoming Etherlink? Okay? So yan, hopefully you answered the question correctly in our Facebook live stream. Okay? So that you might have the chance to win 50,000 Satoshis. Okay, so last question. What is the name of the Web3 startup studio of TZ APAC, tailored to foster startups built on Tezos and the upcoming Etherlink? So I hope you answer our question correctly. Ayan. Then, our last trivia question. Are you ready for the last trivia question, guys? Ready na ba kayo? Are you ready? Okay. So, the last trivia question is, name a Tezos PHL community member. Okay, name a Tezos Philippines community member. Okay, so you have to, correct spelling ba to? Is it correct spelling? Okay, so you just name one Tezos Philippines community member. Okay, Tezos Philippines yan. Okay. Okay, Tezos Philippines. Okay. So once again, name a Tezos Philippines community member. So, thank you once again, in participating in our trivia question and answer segment and joining our BitPinas live stream. Once again, thank you so much, Bitshares Labs, for providing these Satoshis. And don't forget that we will also select 2 winners of 50,000 Satoshis if you participate in the comment section. So do not be discouraged if you don't get the correct answers in our trivia question. Okay? Remember that you must have a sharer or a follower badge in order to qualify. You need to share our Facebook live stream publicly on your Facebook account and like the BitPinas Facebook fan page. All right. So thank you so much once again for tuning in to our trivia question and answer. My name is Michael Lance, and let's go back to Mike and Imran.
All right, thank you, Lance, for the trivia for tonight, So I hope we get to see you again next week, because I know that sometimes you're not here. You have an engagement. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, So now we go to Imran. So I just want to thank Imran for being here with us to discuss, to have a preliminary discussion about 45 Labs, the things that TZ APAC is doing. So you actually already said your closing now. So I just want to like you to answer this question on what can we expect actually from 2 things, from the Tezos community or the Tezos blockchain. What is expected to happen? I know you have mentioned the Etherlink, and of course, what can we expect from more news from TZ APAC and 45 Labs? And finally, where can people find you, Imran, and where can they get to know more about you?
Sure. Yeah, so for those 2 questions, yeah, I mean, I think the main thing to watch out for Tezos right now, and the most exciting thing, is just Etherlink. So once that's live, right, I think that's going to be super interesting. We're going to see so many new applications on it. It's going to be, extremely performant and extremely cheap. So I really think it's going to sort of spark the flame of like a new wave of adoption, essentially. So I think if you're a community, what you can do is like just watch out for the Etherlink launch and like participate, right? When you see new applications launch on Etherlink or by 45 Labs, like try it out and let us know what you think. I think that's what I would be excited of if I were the community. And Sorry, what was the second half of that question?
Looking for what to look forward to about
For
45
TTA
Labs,
pack.
what's
TTA
going
pack,
to
yeah.
happen in the next few days and weeks.
Right. Okay. So basically, once the application closes, that's when things get interesting. So we'll go through the process of reviewing all the startups, and onboarding it. So we'll finalize our cohort probably closer to March, and so that's when you guys will get a first taste of like what actually who these startups are, what they're capable of, the level that they're at, and sort of the synergy with the sales ecosystem. But short term, I think watch out for some of the advisors that we're going to be announcing, some of the partners that we have in the program. I think it's quite a list of people, and it's quite a list of partners. So I think if everything comes together well, we basically have quite an exciting year ahead of us.
All right, Imran, and where can people find you? Do you have a Twitter or LinkedIn where people can connect?
Yeah, I mean, you can search Imran Razli on LinkedIn, or you can probably, the next best way to connect to me is Twitter works as well. So I have a Twitter account called the Rumbler is her. So is there a way for me to type it out or something?
Yeah, you can type it at the left corner. I mean, there's a comment section somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Can you see
Let's
it?
see.
Okay.
Let's see if I can figure that out.
On the comments, not the private chat. Okay.
Yeah, I can't access the comment, but maybe I'll write it in the private chat, and then you can write it there.
Okay, sure. Mm-hmm.
I'll pass you my Telegram ID as well. So if anybody wants to reach out, feel free to ping me on Telegram. I'm happy to have a conversation.
Right. This has been a very interesting conversation, Imran, about that PZ APAC, about 45 Labs, about Etherlink. So personally excited on those things. Etherlink as well. As I mentioned earlier, there have been some discussions about Tezos development, but one of the things that they were talking about is how they can port their projects to Tezos. And now with Etherlink, and then with the support of PZ APAC through 45 Labs, I think these are very exciting things for the Tezos blockchain or the Tezos community as well. So the wider Tezos community who are here at this chat, I mean at this webcast earlier. I mean, and even today, thank you so much for those who are still with us with this webcast with Imran. Thank you to our staff at BitPinas. We have Nate, we have Sheila, all on the back end. Then we have our trivia master, Lance, on who gave us the trivias, and then the Tezos Philippines community with Sir and Henry who are there also in our comment section. Shout out to my girlfriend who's also in the comment section. Thank you so much again, Imran. This has been a very interesting webcast about TZ APAC and 45 Labs. Thank you to our audience, and makita-kita tayo sa susunod na episode ng BitPinas Webcast. Maraming salamat at magandang gabi sa lahat. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.